So Qubic is going to mine Doge, or at least that's what Qubic creator Sergey Ivancheglo, who's also known as Come From Beyond, has been saying. He's been saying that after Qubic mines Monero, they're going to go straight into mining Doge. Is that true? Is it possible? I'm not sure, but in this video, I'm going to explain to you, and we're going to look into it and research it properly and see, is it actually possible for Qubic to mine Doge and what that would mean for Qubic? Let's get into it. Yeah, so guys, right now, as you probably know, Qubic is mining Monero or XMR, and it's doing it very successfully and really could have taken over the Monero network if it wants to by now. But it keeps mining Monero for now without taking it over because it's just been really, really profitable. But apparently they're working on coding to mine Dogecoin as soon as possible. But mining Dogecoin is a way, way, way different thing to mining Monero, and we're going to look at that now. So I'm using ChatGPT for reference here. I know ChatGPT is not correct on everything, but we're going to just use it as a talking point at least, try and catch out some things where it might be wrong. And, you know, there might be some points where I don't even recognize that's wrong, but we're going to get a good overall simplified picture just ourselves from discussing, you know, the in-depth analysis that ChatGPT gives. So first of all, ChatGPT here is giving an analysis of Monero versus Dogecoin mining. And the mining algorithm that Monero uses is called RandomX, which is CPU and GPU friendly and ASIC resistant. So ASIC is a special mining hardware that can be used to mine crypto, while CPU and GPU is just what you use in your general computers. Monero is CPU friendly, meaning that anyone can, with a laptop or a computer, can mine Monero successfully. But they couldn't mine an ASIC coin themselves. The reason that Monero was built to be ASIC resistant is because generally ASICs are very expensive, so they're only owned by big companies, and it adds a kind of a bit of centralization because you've just got these huge companies that start mining Monero, or would mine Monero if it wasn't ASIC resistant. But Bitcoin, for example, is an ASIC mined coin. Qubic is CPU and GPU friendly, and it isn't ASIC resistant, but there's not many ASIC miners on the Qubic network. So Qubic is actually suited to mining Monero because it uses CPUs and GPUs. Dogecoin, on the other hand, uses script and is heavily ASIC dominated, also merge mined with Litecoin. Really two important points. So it's ASIC dominated, so large corporations are using ASIC miners to mine Dogecoin, and it's merge mined with Litecoin. So because hash rate and cost of control, because RandomX is harder to scale with ASICs gaining majority hash rate is more feasible via large CPU farms, though still expensive. And then for Dogecoin, huge hash rate already in place for Doge via ASICs, large mining farms, merge mining with Litecoin. Getting a large slice requires deploying or controlling very large ASIC resources. Costs are much higher. So to control the Monero network, because you can do it just with CPUs and you don't need ASICs, it's way more to gain that, way more possible to gain that majority hash rate and that 51% of the Monero network that it is of the Doge network, because the Doge network already has a way higher hash rate. It's merge mined with Litecoin, so you're getting the hash rate from Doge and Litecoin, and also it's mined by ASICs, which are really expensive and are much harder to get. So taking 51% of control of Dogecoin is far more difficult. Merge mining isn't applicable in Monero. Dogecoin is merge mined with Litecoin. This adds complexity because it's not just about Doge's hash rate, but also the miners who mine Litecoin and Doge. That gives inherent protection and synergy in the network. So this makes Doge super secure from a 51% attack and makes it super secure in general. And so, and same with Litecoin because they're merge mined together. Again, Monero hasn't got that protection. Development and implementation time. Qubic already has infrastructure and experience with RandomX and can leverage existing code. So Qubic is very well set up, as we already said, for mining Monero. For Doge, modifications, it says might be needed, but they definitely are needed, or at least tuned. New hardware acquisition configuration, merge mining integrations, so ramp up is a lot longer. Qubic themselves say months to develop. So Qubic's working, developing this right now, but they need ASIC miners. They don't have the mining, and they need way, way, way higher of a hash rate to mine Doge successfully and take over the network. Risk pushback. Monero mining community is sensitive to centralization, but RandomX, more egalitarian nature, gives some leeway. Basically, the Monero community are pushing back towards centralization. With Doge, mining is already centralized around ASIC farms. Any attempt by Qubic to shift large amounts of power might provoke resistance, both technically, other miners reacting, and politically, communities, exchanges, regulators. Also, because Doge is big and merged with Litecoin, impact of any attempt is more visible. So any attempt will be noticed by Doge. And look, every network doesn't want to be centralized completely or have a 51% attack. So Dogecoin will push back, and there will be high risk to actually trying to take over the Doge network. Could they replicate useful proof of work with Doge? And by they, it means the Qubic network. In principle, yes. Qubic's model is not just about doing proof of work for the blockchain, but also using that work or associated resources for their AI compute tasks, blah, blah, blah. There's no fundamental cryptographic reason why you can't do something similar with any proof of work chain, but the economics and practicalities make it harder with Doge. The cost of electricity, cooling, ASIC hardware are all for script ASIC mining all higher for script ASIC miners compared to CPU mining with RandomX. So if the reward from Doge is not enough to offset the cost of integrating with Qubic's useful proof of work infrastructure, the margins could be thin or negative. The time to deploy enough ASIC power or rent control them might be long. Also, supply constraints for new ASICs. So Qubic obviously is not going to rent ASIC miners. That just wouldn't make sense. And there's no ASIC miners mining on the Qubic network, so they have no access to ASIC miners at all. So they can't do this, is what we're reading here. Because Doge is merge mined with Litecoin, control over Doge blocks alone is more complicated. Those mining Litecoin also indirectly affect Doge, so Qubic would either need to engage Litecoin mining or partner with Litecoin miners or own enough script hash power. So again, even if they are taking over the Doge network, they've got a whole issue of the Litecoin network. Again, just makes it impossible for Qubic to take over Doge. It makes it impossible for Qubic even to mine Doge, but to have a huge portion of the Doge network and actually take over the Doge network is basically impossible. There's risks that Doge is difficulty hash rate adjust dynamically. So even if Qubic deploys a lot of hash power, the network difficulty may push back, raising the necessary compute cost or reducing profit. So again, even if Qubic is like doing the impossible and looks like they're going to take over the network, Doge has measures in place that can make things more difficult for them and make something that looks like they've finally got the network, and then all of a sudden it's gone out of their hands and they haven't got it anymore. Also, having a large fraction of hash rate introduces security risk, but also scrutiny. Exchanges, users, and other stakeholders could respond, suspend accounts, as happened with Monero, if they believe network integrity is threatened. So there's reputational risk. And also you've got Elon Musk, who is a huge Doge holder and a huge supporter of Doge, and a genius with incredible resources that could just push back on this as well and fight back against Qubic. So right now we're seeing it as something impossible, and the mining algorithm difference. So Monero uses RandomX, we said. Dogecoin uses script and is ASIC dominated, which is important. So the CPUs and GPUs couldn't compete in that, so it's far too high. So Qubic in its current form has no way it could mine Doge. The merge mining with Litecoin, Doge is merge mine, meaning miners who point script ASICs at Litecoin automatically also mine Doge. So if Qubic wants to capture meaningful Doge hash rate, they'd effectively need to enter the script ASIC mining scene at scale, competing with or partnering with existing Litecoin Doge miners. Be a huge, huge cost. It wouldn't be part of Qubic's useful proof of work model. It would make no sense. So right now, impossible. No way can Qubic mine Doge, and 100% it couldn't take over 51% of Doge. Why the current setup won't work? Qubic's current setup won't work. Qubic's current CPU, GPU infrastructure is tuned for RandomX, useless for script. They can't just point their Monero miners at Doge. They'll essentially get 0 blocks because the difficulty is astronomically higher for non-ASICs. So if Qubic used all the power that's using to mine Monero right now and pointed at Doge, it would probably get 0 blocks. So it can't do it. What Qubic would need, massive investment in script ASIC hardware, doesn't make sense, as far as we can see, because Qubic has no one using ASIC miners to mine the Qubic network. It's not optimized for that. So there's no through Qubic's used for proof of work model. There's no ASIC mining power going to the network. Access to cheap electricity and hosting for ASIC farms, that's what they need. But again, that goes against Qubic's use for proof of work model and mining pool infrastructure adapted for script instead of random X, which it is not either. So impossible. And then I said, in this case, why does CfB, so Sergey Ivancheglo, seem so confident that they could mine Doge and complete a 51% attack? Qubic needs CPU miners to power their AI, so it wouldn't make sense for them to have ASICs miners too. Do you think there could be more to this than meets the eye? And ChatGPT said, that's a really sharp observation, and thank you. You are charming, ChatGPT. I love the way ChatGPT makes you feel like you're a genius when you just say things. It's not a sharp observation. It's just, clarifying what they said. And they said, you're right to notice the mismatch. Let's unpack it carefully. So what I'm saying is, there's no way that Qubic is going to use ASIC miners right now. It doesn't make sense. So this is all sounds like bullshit. Or why is it that CfB seems so confident? Can ChatGPT explain this? And they said, why does CfB sound confident? CfB has a history of making bold claims. He did the same in IOTA's early years. A lot of his confidence comes from projecting Qubic's coordination power, its ability to marshal a massive swarm of independent miners. So he's got confidence in the fact that Qubic is using that useful proof of work model successfully already. But they're also saying he's got a history of making bold claims. So I think they don't say it right now, but they do down here. They say, so as we can do, it sounds could be marketing bravado, maybe a psychological play to make people think it's inevitable. With Monero, that works because CPUs can actually mine Monero profitably by organizing thousands of people into pools. Qubic suddenly looked like a giant meta miner. But with Doge, that leverage doesn't exist. Only ASICs matter. So the same crowdsourced CPU army model doesn't translate in any way. It says it doesn't translate directly. It just doesn't translate. So what they're basically saying here is that it's most likely just marketing bravado out of Sergey Ivancheglo or just a psychological play. Now, I'm going to dig into that a bit more because I got questions about that. But let's just move on. So they say why it doesn't add up. You nailed it. Qubic needs CPUs for their AI computations and use for proof of work. Buying ASIC farms doesn't help them with AI at all. ASICs are single purpose. They'd sit idle for Qubic's main mission, so it doesn't make sense for them to use ASICs. So if Qubic really started stockpiling ASICs, they'd be burning capital for a one-off show of force, not for their core ecosystem. Because the whole goal of Qubic is to attract miners over the Qubic network. But why would they attract ASIC miners from Doge over the Qubic network if those ASIC miners aren't able to provide for their AI? I mean, it doesn't make sense. That's inefficient and doesn't align with their useful proof of work narrative. Possible hidden angles, so the more the meets the eye. Here are some scenarios that could explain CfB's confidence partnership angle. Instead of buying ASICs, Qubic could try to partner with existing Litecoin Doge model and redirect their hash rate in exchange for incentives. This way, Qubic doesn't own ASICs but controls them through economic deals. So basically saying that for some reason, the ASIC miners would go and mine on the Qubic network and it would make more economical sense for them to do that than mine Doge. Hash power rental markets. Large script hash rate can temporarily rent it via... there's no way they're going to be renting hash power. That's not going to happen. Psychological bluff. By claiming they can do it, Qubic might be signaling strength, sowing doubt, or pushing Dogecoin developers community into engaging with them. Think about it as game theory. If we make you believe we could 51% you'll treat us more seriously. Now, that is definitely possible, and I think some of that goes on with CfB, but I mean, he's already said it. I don't think Doge gives a fuck. It's not like you would need to significantly do something to the Doge network enough for them to take you serious, and then they might engage with you. But right now, it just doesn't make sense. Future tech bet. Maybe they anticipate some hardware shift like FPGA, NovoScript miners, or insider access to cheap ASIC supply that could give them leverage that's not obvious to outsiders. So maybe they have a future tech bet, or they know something that's going to happen in the future, or maybe it's related to the AI that they're training right now. My take, so ChatGPT's take, if we stick strictly to today's tech and economics, Qubic cannot, 100% cannot do a 51% attack on Doge with just CPUs. They need ASICs or ASIC partnerships, and they're not going to go for ASIC partnerships. Since ASICs don't help Qubic AI, as far as we know right now, it doesn't make strategic sense to buy them unless the real goal is influence, not efficiency. That makes me think CFB's confidence is either rooted in partnerships, alliances we don't see yet, which I'm very skeptical that that's the case, or part of a strategic bluff to amplify Qubic's reputation as a network that can dominate proof-of-work coins. And that would make sense, but you can't talk that talk and not have anything to back it up. If they talk that talk and then after a month nothing happens with Doge, I mean, no one's going to take them seriously again. So it's not, that doesn't make sense. Either CFP is really stupid if that's the plan. So looking at all this, Qubic is not going to mine Doge. It's impossible if you just look at this. But I'm gone beyond doubting CFB. I just don't. The only thing in my head, logically, I look at it and I think Doge mining is not going to happen with Qubic. It doesn't make sense. But I don't doubt CFB, and I have a feeling he probably has some bigger plans, something we don't understand. Now, I mean, I'm pretty sure CFB has been selling a huge amount of Bitcoin, and I'm pretty sure if he's not Satoshi, he's one of the first miners on the Bitcoin network, and he's probably selling Bitcoin for billions. Maybe he's buying ASIC miners with a huge mining farm. I don't know. Maybe he believes that Qubic is going to pump, but that wouldn't make sense because if he has ASIC miners, they're apparently not useful for the AI training, but maybe they are useful for that AI training. So maybe there's something we don't understand yet, and Qubic can be mined eventually with CPUs, GPUs, and ASICs, and it's going to be optimized for all those things in some incredible way that we don't understand yet, and it just doesn't make sense. And that possibly is something maybe through the quorum. There can be different pools, and maybe one pool could be CPU optimized, another could be GPU optimized, another could be ASICs optimized. Maybe that's possible. I don't know. Maybe that's possible. And maybe CFB already knows that something's going to happen, that Qubic is going to become a top 20, top 50 maybe crypto, maybe top 10 crypto before they mine Doge, and it's going to have huge eyes in it and way more mining power, and loads of ASIC miners will switch over to it, and that's why he believes they can mine Doge. All logic would say that this is not possible, but also he's working on AI. Maybe he thinks that AI is going to be able to in some way mine Doge or contribute to it. Again, none of it makes sense, but I just don't doubt CFB. I just have a feeling that he might have something in place that we don't see yet. And I logically don't see Qubic mining Doge. But also logically, I believe CFB when he says they will mine Doge. I just don't know how he's going to do it. And in my heart, I think that by the end of the year or early next year, you're going to see Qubic mining Doge, and that being a really big deal. But let's see what happens. I mean, it's all up in the air for me. I don't know, but I just, like I said, I'm beyond doubting CFB ever. Time will tell. That's all I've got for you today, guys. I'll see you all on the outside.